Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Cat's Track. We post an interview with an amazing Canadian each weekday for your daily inspiration. Today, I would like to introduce you to my dear friend, Joni Avram. Joni was born in Indian Head, Saskatchewan, with a population of 1,800 people. Her parents owned the hotel, and her dad was mayor for a time. Joni has long and loyal relationships, and she tells me that she feels fortunate to call the best people in the world friends and colleagues. So nice. She's also a proud mom of 2 boys and 2 girls, very busy house, who have one thing in common, big, kind hearts. She refers to her husband, Colin, as her favorite so far. Besides her loved ones, Joni loves to work on very important and interesting projects. She is committed to lifelong learning and recently earned a master's in Behavioural Science, which has broadened her understanding of how to communicate to create positive social change. Joni's approach focuses on how emotions influence behavior and how to use positive emotions to change the way people think and behave. Friends, you'll find her full bio attached. Joni, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks, Catherine. I was trying to remember when we actually met for the first time. It's been quite a few years. I'm going to guess at least 10.
Yep.
But you're one of my favorite people, so...
Yay. You are, me too.
Yeah. And I remember that we did some funny things with our hair at one point together.
Yes, prom night.
Prom night.
Oh, it's so good to see you, Joni.
Oh, thanks.
Are you ready for the questions that we sent your way?
I am. I'm ready.
So good. So the first one being the greatest challenge that you've had in the last few months.
Yes, the biggest challenge I think has really been around kids and homeschooling. For me, my work has sort of been seamless. I can work anywhere. All I need is my laptop and a Wi-Fi that works. And so that hasn't been too bad, but really I have my 2 older kids are actually out of high school now. And so one of them missed the whole grad thing, and she managed that okay. And they sort of bounced back pretty well. They kind of pivoted okay, but it wasn't ideal. And then the older one, they've both been working and they both got sort of plans, but it's definitely put their lives a bit on hold. But the 2 younger ones have been harder because they're in elementary school and they are less self-sufficient. One of them loves isolation, would be isolated for the rest of his life. The other one is really struggling with the social distance and just not having a regular routine and regular friends. And, she's so outgoing and social. It's been really hard for her. And really, it's been more of a mental health issue for her than physical.
Yeah. I understand. Gosh, that conversation is everywhere right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Joni.
Yeah, thanks. So, in some ways it's been positive because, as you said, busy household, we're always going in one direction or another. The cars and the extracurricular activities. And when those stopped, actually, I felt like I had a physical rest for a while, finally. Like it was, there was no beating traffic at 5 o'clock or, trying to stuff some food in before you hit this kind of practice. So that was nice. Everything slowed down. Our world got a lot smaller. And in some ways, I think the kids have benefited from that. And I have as well, but for sure it's, I think all things considered, we're lucky.
Yeah. Our first world problems, right, Joni?
For sure. Yeah, we've got lots to be grateful for.
I love your attitude always.
Oh, thanks.
What are the 3 things that you'd like to share with us today?
So tell me when you just say 3 things, is it anything I can share, or is it any sort of things that I've learned or things I'm looking forward to?
What you're working on, how you're changing the world today.
I guess, yeah, I'll share a couple of things. So one of my big projects that I've worked on in the past was around sexual assault awareness, and it was the I Believe You campaign. And we did a really good job of helping people understand how to respond to people who've been sexually assaulted, and to start by believing, and what impact that has on survivors. So from there, we've now got a new campaign that we're getting ready to launch, which has to do with sexual harassment in the workplace. And that's a really interesting problem. It's an Alberta-wide campaign. It will be running for 4 years. And so a substantial campaign, really designed to engage workers and workplaces and leaders in not just addressing, helping them understand that by creating really positive, productive workplaces where everybody loves to work and everyone feels like they can show up and be themselves, and you make a mistake and someone's got your back, these kinds of cultures actually create not only places where people can contribute and be innovative and be productive, and staff loyalty, and more productive, more profitable organizations, but they also lead to or they also help stop sexual harassment. And because you create this culture, it's really about the context in which you make decisions. If you can change that context and change that culture, you're going to change the way people interact with one another for the good. And so that's one of the other things that I'm working on. I'm excited about. We've spent a long time on it, actually. We've had the luxury of time, I would say, because we've had a lot of time to really understand this issue from the perspective of the audience. And we've done some research just to which I'll share at some point down the road. And then we'll spend the fall kind of getting ready, and we'll launch it in the new year. But that's one really, really good thing I'm working on. And then the other thing that sort of has come to my notice, I guess, has been how many of my friends and colleagues who are communicators and advocates and educators who have told me that they really appreciate some of the content that I create and share, because I come at it from a focus of not so much about how do we create awareness about a certain issue or a problem, but how do we actually create behavior change in a positive way. And that's one of the things that I got from my own education, as well as my own practice as a worker, has been, you really can encourage and enable, and by ennobling, I say it, ennobling people. It's interesting. We kind of live in a culture right now where we feel like it's right to call people out, but I say it's actually the best thing is to call people up.
I love it.
Because I believe that people actually are, at their core, they are good people, and they do want to do good things and be positive members of society. Sometimes they don't know how, and calling them up allows them, and showing them what good looks like, and sort of catching people doing the right thing and celebrating the progress that we're making. It actually enables people to not only see, oh, that's what good looks like, but it also gives them a sense of confidence and hope that I can do that too. It's not so hard. And that's really how we tackle these big social problems. It's not by sort of fixating on what's wrong as much as showing where the progress is made and how we can move things along. So I'm preparing right now a webinar for next week, which is open to the public. Anyone who's in this space and interested in knowing more about how to do this kind of communication, I want to share sort of what I've learned about how to avoid some of the mistakes that are often made. I mean, a lot of these campaigns that I've seen in the past have actually done more harm than good. So there are stories, for instance, do you remember the Don't Just Say No campaign from the 1980s?
Yeah.
Well, that campaign, and the early version of that campaign, viewers were kids who watched were more likely to try drugs and alcohol after seeing that campaign than not. And then there are other things that have happened recently, like there's a story about a park in Arizona called the Petrified Forest. I think it's called like a natural preserve. And people used to come to this park and pick off bits of the million-year-old trees to take them home. Wow. As souvenirs. And, obviously this is a problem, not a sustainable practice. Wow. And so park administrators put up a sign and they said, please don't do this. Please don't take home bits of our trees. Well, it had the opposite effect. It backfired.
Yeah.
It created the number of incidents actually went up 3 times because those signs were out. If they had done nothing, they would have been better off. So I think that one of the things I want to kind of encourage people to think and rethink is that raising awareness in and of itself isn't necessarily a good thing, because it can actually perpetuate the problem that you want to stop. And sometimes it's doing the opposite of what we think we should do, which is showing the good behavior and celebrating the people who are getting it right. And so that when I think about my next step in my career, I think about myself as being kind of like, I've done a lot of one-on-one consulting and I've done a lot of projects, but now I see myself as a bit of a midwife. I want to be able to allow others or help others birth their own projects and their own campaigns in ways that are really positive and productive and applying the principles that I've learned. So I want to find a way to share those, to bring people together who kind of are aligned with this notion of the power of positive psychology and positive marketing and what it can do. So one of the things that I've learned a lot about, and the reason I think positive psychology is so amazing, is that it's not just an emotion. It's actually triggers in us a physiological as well as a cognitive response. So we think differently and we feel differently, and that enables us to behave differently. So when I'm influenced emotionally, something happens that if it's a positive emotion, it draws me to you. It makes me think more creatively. It actually increases our peripheral vision. So we can actually physically see things differently and better. And so I know that just in terms of creating a pro-social behavior response, like people who are good to each other, there's something really powerful about emotions. We like to think that we're, very logical people who make very logical decisions at all times, but the reality is we're very emotional people and we make emotional decisions. And so we can use our emotions for good or we can use them for not so good. And I'm encouraging us to find ways to use what is how we're naturally wired to help us do what we already want to do, which is be better people and be good with each other and share and grow and learn, all of those things. So that's my number 2.
I love it.
Now, do I have a number 3? I'm sorry. I feel a little bit like I'm caught at school without the answer. Oh, maybe I'll say that about school, because I have been working. One of the things that I've been doing has been working at Ambrose University, just as a sessional lecturer, one class every semester. But I've really enjoyed working with young kids. I mean, like they're young kids. I still feel like I'm their age in some ways, but I'm not. But what I love about these kids is how like earnest they are, and they're very sincere, and like they really have good hearts. They really have a desire to do good things and to be part of the cause and all that stuff. One thing I do find also that they're a little bit cynical, which I find interesting, and maybe not surprising. The world is maybe a place where you can be cynical. But the other thing is I think everyone at that age is needing confidence. And one of the things that I want to help them with is to grow their own confidence, learn what's really important, really figure out how to make good arguments and present well, and just kind of show up and sort of embrace who they are, because they all come to the table with something very unique, and they all communicate in different ways, and it's all got value and merit, and every one of them can express that in their own little worlds. So that is kind of another fun thing that I'm up to. That's my number 3.
I love it, Joni.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about the webinar. How can we log on to it next week?
Go to my website, which is causeeffect.ca. That's 2 E's, 2 F's.ca, and then /lift. Lift, L-I-F-T. So I've called it, and you can sign up there. There's an Eventbrite link, and you can make a little contribution to a not-for-profit if you're so inclined. So the reason I called it Lift is because, for obvious reasons, I think we have an opportunity to use and to share kind of best practices and to understand how to use these principles to lift our own careers up, because we can become better practitioners, but also we can lift up our organizations. These organizations can become much more powerful, more credible, more influential in the community, attract better and more workers, more partners, like all that stuff. And then the third thing we can do is lift our community. So I really believe that these principles are important for the person, for the organization, and for the community at large. And I want to share them. So to the extent that you're interested in learning a little bit about this, and maybe, as a next step, what I see as a next step is maybe kind of bringing together a cohort of people who want to get lifted together, who want to lift together, who want to sort of share these ideas and practices. We'll work together to expand our influence, expand our networks, and share what we know. So that's what's up.
I love it.
It's next Wednesday at noon Mountain,
Okay.
on Zoom. And yeah, it's pretty easy to find. And if people don't have any problems, they can certainly DM me, or they can go to my LinkedIn page, which is Joni Avram. And there shouldn't be any problem finding me.
Awesome. Thank you, Joni.
Great, you're welcome.
The world would be a better place with many more of you.
I agree. I tell my husband that all the time. Right? I say good ideas for a better world. That's what we all need, right?
You were like this before your education, I must say.
I think I started off as I was thinking about this. How did this happen? Like, why did I decide that I could be in this space? And it really does start with growing up in a small town. Because, because you have this sense of community, and it's like, well, nobody's going to solve our problems but us. So let's get at her. And it never really occurred to me. So I remember watching, like, I was only a child, obviously. I never participated, but I remember watching people who were business owners and bankers, and maybe they would be priests involved, and everybody who was not-for-profit teachers, like the whole community came together to solve a problem or to fix something or to build something or whatever. And I just thought, well, isn't that how you do it? I guess that's what you do. And it just never occurred to me when I moved to a bigger city that that's not what you do. So that's kind of what I do.
I love it.
Yeah. And I just really believe in people, and I believe in our collective ability to, especially here in Calgary, to make good things happen. One of the best things that I see, one of the things that I've noticed after the last few months has been how relatively peaceful we are as a community, and how relatively connected and cohesive we are. And we have to give thanks for that. We should be grateful, and we should find ways to get better. But let's start from a perspective of gratitude.
Ah, I love it. I knew you'd go there. I love it. I love it.
Thanks, Catherine.
Joni, thank you so much for joining us today. Any closing thoughts?
Well, I just appreciate that you're doing this, and just to reiterate that everybody has a positive role to play, and in small ways and large ways, we all have a way we can lift each other up, and let's do that, because the alternative isn't very happy. So yeah.
I agree. You're always lifting everyone up, and thank you so much for all the things you do each and every day.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Joni. Everyone, that was my dear friend, Joni Avram. Check out Lift and spread the word. Tell everyone. We need more and more positive news. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us on Cat's Track. We'll see you next time.